It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful snowy day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? I saw a sign the other day on Utica and Fillmore in the building. It says putting the neighbor back in the hood. I think that's what this whole show is about, is how do we put the neighbor back in the hood? How do we make sure we're taking care of each other? Welcome, everybody. It's another show. Those of you who are joining us right now on the Facebook. Oh, you seeing that little grainy part? It's driving Mark crazy. It's this little part he's trying to fix. He thinks I don't see it. See, I watch you. Oh, you can't. You can't cough nowadays. You cough, and I just swallowed a little wrong. You cough nowadays, man. People running from you.
Sure am. Where's my mask? Oh, it's around my neck.
Oh, because I coughed? Everybody who's on Facebook, notice we're not on YouTube, right? Just on Facebook. Oh, we're on YouTube. Notice I have the little apparatus that I never have to look for my mask. It is always hanging. And when I used to see, I'm going to date myself, I'll say older people with their glasses, and they had this thing that held their glasses, I was like, ugh, I guess, I don't know. I have on one of my favorite masks. 41413, I'm going to wear this. I love this mask because it has meaning. But I put the little mask in the thing, little holder, and then it stays all the way around my neck so that when I need it, I just pull it up. Because I don't know if you all out there have had the experience, and Jim Woodward is on, who has made most of my masks this year, but leaving out of the house and forgetting your mask. Have you gone to the store and forgot your mask? I have a little small box of masks, paper mask in my car, but what I know about those, they last for like 10 minutes. Don't get them wet. So Stephanie Moses said, oh, yeah, because she's a flight attendant. You should see me on the plane when someone coughs. Man,
it's a situation.
It's a situation. And my throat was a little scratchy the other day, and I thought I was about to get a cold. Man, when I tell you, I was praying death away. Like, Lord, please, because I just didn't want to be in places and you got a cough and everybody looking at you all crazy. But some people, I saw a guy the other day, I think I talked about this before, who sneezed and took his mask down to sneeze. Like, dude. Carolyn Lane says she leaves some in the car. Come on, Facebook, press that share button. Press that share button. Let's get people in here because we're going to talk about a lot today. We'll be talking about the teachers said they're going to court about school reopening on Monday. Now, I'm supposed to be a part of a delegation on Monday that's supposed to welcome back kids to school. And but I want to talk about that, what you feel about that. The teachers union said they're going to court because they don't think some things are in place that are necessary for safety. I want to talk a little bit about Harriet Tubman coming to the $20 bill. You know, we supported that a long time ago, and then in the previous administration, it just got shelved. Matter of fact, we don't have any people of color on money.
They dead and white.
Because I think there's some in the demographic who don't want people of color to have any money. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk a little bit about this vaccine rollout, and my opinions of them. Tia says they should because there are not. We don't have everybody on all the money, and then the former administration wouldn't even
entertain it.
Wouldn't even entertain it. A change is going to come. Now, I know a lot of people are upset about Biden doing all these executive orders. Too bad. You weren't upset when the former, and that's all the way I'm going to address them, the former administration did all the executive orders. No upsetness. Now it's, but look at the executive orders. allowing for now I don't mind it being called Obamacare. Allowing for the Affordable Cares Act to continue. Why wouldn't I want them to do that? Trying to take care of stuff on the border. Why wouldn't I want them to do that? Trying to get stimulus money to people who are in need. Why would I not want him to do that? So keep on writing, President Biden. So let's talk about this back to school stuff. Oh, wait a minute. Let me talk about the Buffalo Challenger real quick. And the fact that our friend, and I don't know, did I bring up Bishop Henderson last show? I'm not sure, but it's probably a new Challenger out now, but I'm going from the one on the 21st, in which they talk about Bishop William Henderson, who just a great man of God, and I'm sorry I could not be a part of his homegoing, but just a great man of God. So I wanted to mention him. Also, CAO has a new president, Thomas U. Kim, as CEO Nate Hare calls him an inspiring leader. So CAO has new leadership. Mr. Hare has retired. I doubt if he'll really be retired, but from the CAO he will. So we're going to see what results come out of this. And Antoine Thompson, has been named to the top 200 most powerful leaders in residential real estate. Well, all right. I think that's great. I like to see people do well, and especially somebody who came out of our area and who's still making it happen. And if you want to read these, it's in the January 21st Buffalo Challenger. They talk about the nation's oldest minority real estate association, which has close to 20,000 members who champion the development of black real estate professionals. And Antoine Thompson is in the top 200. Baby, gotta love that. I've been listening to these books I've downloaded. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this app called Blink. So, okay, the app is called Blink, and I'm not pressing for it.
I use Audible.
You use Audible, but does it summarize the books?
No.
Yes.
It might, I don't know.
So Blink gives you a blink of each chapter in a book and what the summary of it is, because I don't use Audible. I do have Audible, but by the time I get back in the car, I done forgot what I already listened to. So it's like when I'm watching a reality show, either Monique has to sit there and go like, no, babe, you remember, because she the one that da-da-da-da, right? Because that's,
right.
That's how some of our wives process. They remember. So she'll be like, no, look at Sean. Sean, don't get nobody in trouble in here. They remember stuff we didn't forgot. You know what I mean? Is that something that God gave them? We didn't. No, I'm going to say I forgot. I'm not going to let you lead me down there. So Blink, what Blink does is Blink to you say like your interests, self-improvement, business, stocks, all that kind of stuff. You say all of that. And we're going to talk about stocks because I'm not talking to a certain council member right now. So I hope he's not listening. I'm not talking to him. What? Yeah, I ain't talking to him. Gonna tell me buy, and then don't call me to say sell, and I wake up in hell. Anyway, so Blink. I'm listening to this book the other day, and it talks about how your success is really connected to everybody else's, and how important it is to lift up other people. That's our real. I mean, it's no. To me, it's no purpose having any power. It's no purpose having any amount of success if it is not in direct relation to how else do I lift up other people. And well, I can't have a conversation in the doorway because people can't hear you. At the end of the day, it is so important. You either got to go to a mic or come on. So at the end of the day, it is so important that we start to understand the power of lifting up others. And I receive that. I try. I do it, but I want to do it at an even greater level of celebrating others, of boosting others, not just, and it's not patronizing. What were you saying, Sean, over at the door?
A great documentary out. I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. I think the name is The Black Godfather.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
that's a good one.
I watched that.
Everything you said. He wasn't about him.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money. It was bringing people up and having people.
Hey, Sean, bring that mic closer.
Yeah.
It's just knowing people and connecting people together. And you just sit back and watch it flourish because you're flourish off their flourish.
One of the things this Blink book not the book isn't Blink, the app is Blink, is that the people you need, it talks about in your team. You need somebody you need a pillar, somebody who's going to support you. Then you need somebody who's going to connect you. And you need somebody who's going to be honest with you. The third one, it slips my mind, but when I think about a balanced team, but it always, it continue everything I'm thinking about. And you're right about how do you lift up? How do you advance? When we talk about, I've grown a little tired of people talking about, we just need to be together. And then whether it's politics and I believe everybody should be able to run who wants to run. Now, I do believe in the process. But at the end of the day, you can't be mad if you split up the vote 18 ways. And then, somebody who you didn't want because we don't work together in promoting one another. I want to continue, and I want to raise it up a notch. I was at a press conference, and then I'll get to the topics, with Councilmember Wyatt. Councilmember Wyatt is the one who called the press conference. He asked me to speak. I said no. And I said no, not because his topic wasn't important. I said no because he convened that. And I came to support what he was there for. They insisted at the end that I did say a few words. But my point is, regardless of what power position you have, it doesn't have to be about you, and it shouldn't be. At the end of the day, it's how do you promote somebody else? Then we start building networks. Then we start, True Bethel is at the probably, I say, a quarter away to start our building process for the new sanctuary. And at the end of the day, I wanted somebody who has already supported this community, and I want people on the project who I can support their businesses. Now, I think we got to get away from just, can I get somebody on to put up to paint a wall? How do I support those businesses that need the larger projects? Because I know as a government official, I've often heard, well, we're not going to use that company because they don't have capacity. We're not going to use this company because they don't have the history. So when we have our dollars being spent in our community, how do we then give people capacity and build up those businesses? And that's where my head is right now in all walks of life. How do I now continue to build up younger people coming behind me or with me? Because sometimes we see it as they're behind me. To me, Darius, they're with you. And I said this Sunday morning. And we've got to get to the point where those, and I keep saying this, I've been saying this for years, those who simply want to come in and tear down with no ability to build up, that they become the anomaly. We've got to have people go like, wow, they're back in 20, you still in 2020, 2019, 2021 and beyond, those who are talking about advancement, because if you look at it, we have people coming to the Buffalo market. Now, there's an article today about news reporters and how those who come in from out of town often leave to go to better markets. Those who are here, grew up here, tend to stay. Y'all got to look at this. We don't run, no, we do. We run two news agencies. Mm-hmm. One is the agency you listening to right here, which is this radio station. There's another radio station by an African-American pastor also there. So we do run, our voice is heard in Challenger and Criterion. But at the end of the day, the larger market, see, folks don't mind us having a little piece. Mm-hmm. What some people never want is for us to have the recipe.
Yep.
Come on. I got that from.
I don't want a piece of the pie. I want the recipe.
I want the recipe. Sure. So if you think about how African Americans have learned to cook through the years, they didn't learn to cook from the cookbook. They learned to cook from things being passed down. And at the end of the day, you learned something from your grandmother, and you learned something from your aunt, and you tweaked it to be better or to be what you wanted. At the end of the day, it is so important. And I know I just went on a whole rant about supporting, but God is really showing me this power, the power of support and lifting up. So the Black Godfather is a great example.
Yeah, and it's definitely like that in my occupation as a football official. You got to have a mentor. You have to have someone that's ahead of you.
Yeah.
And then you got to reach back. I mean,
yeah.
Most of the successful officials out there now, all the way up to the NFL, they'll all tell you, this guy helped me with my mechanics. This guy helped me with my rule study. No one has gotten there on their own.
Absolutely. And I think what I think about when you talk about that, Sean, and how important it is that we usually don't get there on our own. And I think about why, especially criticism in our community, is usually laid on only a few people, right? Because I think we don't see us as all being capable of being in positions of power and working together to change systems. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go to our topics, but one of the greatest examples recently, I think, has been Carriel's Law, in which people from the community made suggestions, but don't get it twisted. It took all of us. Somebody who wasn't even a part of it was like, well, it was a community who wrote it. No, stop. It's like you're damned if you do in this area and damned if you don't, because there is so many people trying to gain credit. At the end of the day, we had been working on things, but it was a community draft, something that from people, but it still took the Common Council not only for it to be written and for it to be passed. That's working together. And what I'm not going to let people do is people from the outside then come on the inside and then act like well, ain't nothing happening when we finally do work together. That's some baloney. And if we don't call that out, because at first I wasn't going to say nothing about it, I'm like, no, I am going to say something about it. Because had it not been for rallying the troops, if it had not been for working together, there would be no Carriel's Law. And that, to me, is one of the prime examples. We are working together right now with the Minority Bar Association, with the pastors, with a big group of pastors, to pass a law that would make officers have to identify themselves with a business card if you don't get a ticket or you're not arrested, so you know who pulled you over. That ain't, they ain't do nothing because we brought it to them. That's what's supposed to happen. Community. This is what I have worked for and fought for and been transparent for, is so that community would work together with those who they elected and we make good, sensible law, period.
And I was going to say, and I think that's how this government was created from the beginning to operate. It was supposed to be we the people.
Yes.
And so all of this organically works in the community.
Come on.
You go to your elected leaders and say, this is what we want. And then they work to get it passed and made a law.
Absolutely.
From Jump Street.
And that's been why why I have said power to the people. Because it is the power to the people. The elected official shouldn't be I'll give you another example. So I want y'all because I want you to think about it, especially when people jump in after we've done the work and go, oh, well, they didn't do nothing. Come on and go over to the Fruit Belt and go to the first community in the history of the city of Buffalo that had parking permits for residents. And we were told it won't happen. Having the right people in place, the community, number one. Like, why do we have to then have people come and go, well, we did it? No, we all did it. Community. Hey, this is what we want. Me, Crystal People Stokes, the mayor, Tim Kennedy. Yep. Everybody worked together.
And the governor.
And the governor. So let's say that the legislative branch of not only the city, but of the state. So then to have people come in later and say, oh, well, they ain't do it. We did. No, we all did it. And when we get out of that mindset, somebody just said, LaCandace Durham said, we don't have that in Buffalo. We need it. We need to change that mindset and call out that evil when it comes up like we can't work together. I remember before we got the legislation passed for Fruit Belt parking that I was buying signs that so that people could rally for it. And then Crystal People Stokes went to Albany. We sent the home rule. It all worked. And it's still a demonstration project, but it's still there. Yep. And I don't see it going away anytime soon. That is the power of working together.
And we left one piece out. We also had to work with the unions in the medical campus.
Oh, man. And that was tough in the beginning.
Yep.
But we worked. I remember being on the phone call, and it was like God shined a light like that quick, like, just say this. And I made this suggestion, and they were like, okay. My suggestions, a piece of the mayor's suggestions, a piece of Crystal People Stokes suggestions, Tim Kennedy, the community. And we got it done. And when we learned the power of that and we continue to talk about it, I think the people who may be influenced by those who just want to holler will then say, wait a minute. Why am I working against this person if they haven't said no? And if I haven't even had the opportunity, because it doesn't mean that we're always going to say yes, but why would I work against? You go now, and it is one of the most photographed places now. I love this in Western New York. It is the African American Heritage Corridor Archway. Yep. During this pandemic, you have seen more photos, and I don't know this scientifically. What I see in articles. I mean, they even put Bernie Sanders up on the thing. Sure with the thing, they put a picture of him up on it. Why is it the most photographed place? Because again, working together. Community said, we want somebody of color to design it. What happened? Somebody of color designed it. Somebody, without even this happening, we ain't even know this was happening. Somebody of color led putting it together.
He sure did.
Frank Lazarus. Yep. Come on. Valeria. Come on. And it's there, and people take pictures every day up under that banner.
Yeah. And it was years in the making.
Yes.
But and I think someone just said, trust the process. Everything can happen overnight.
Absolutely.
And even though we get super excited and we get your idea and like we're getting ready to start moving, we still have pieces to put together.
Absolutely.
We still have votes to gather. We still have to, like you said before, make sure it passes local law, state law, federal law, and then be able to put that product out.
Absolutely.
So it is about trusting the process, and it's not just going to happen like that.
And participating in the process.
Yes.
I mean, today I had a bishop call me about the police officers' badges, the right to know. Yesterday I had a pastor call and say, here's the words. What can we do to help move this forward?
Absolutely.
That's how you work together.
It makes the process a lot easier, too.
And it makes things happen. If you look at communities that are being rebuilt, they're not being rebuilt because somebody said they ain't doing nothing. You can say that all day. The question is how, because once you start to move, well, why they do that? And so people don't get involved. If you look at, and I'm going to say it over and over, Mount Aaron Village, and I talk about not the village, is that the new one they're building, Mount Aaron. Yes. And the reason, I'm not talking about what he's already built, I'm talking about what he's building now, is when I insisted to Pastor, you got to have a community meeting. And we were on a community meeting with another project last night. He did, and the people have been so supportive because he worked with them. Mm-hmm. And I don't care whether it's a church, and I don't care whether it is a contractor. I do not care. At the end of the day, when you're going into neighborhoods, you need to work with the neighborhood. And that's how we will never build anything, worth anything without it.
And I said this to a lawyer. We were able to get, and countrywide, you were able to see police reform legislation move because of the community's demonstration.
Absolutely.
If we would have put that out and everybody was quiet,
we did put it out before. Yep. We did. That's why I brought back the police oversight committee of the council, because we did put it out there and it was silence. So once you have both people working together and government, you're able to get something. Diane Carruthers says, Diane says, I thought you designed it. Nope, I thought it. I had the dream. It was somebody else who had. I would have never. I'm not an artist. I'd have never. Man, my little archway would have looked like a stick man. It would have been one thing going on the top. And by her listening to people, having multiple meetings, we have a masterpiece that is shared all over the world. BTF on reopening of lawsuit. If teachers are to show up, according to Phil, I believe this is his quote, he says they will show up. Folks, school is opening. The Buffalo Teachers, or maybe the Buffalo Teachers Federation, according to Buffalo News, will file legal papers with courts on Friday to prevent the reopening of schools next week. BTF President Philip Rumore said the union would seek an emergency court hearing with the intentions of getting an answer from a judge on Friday, just days before Buffalo schools are scheduled to reopen on Monday for the first time since March. What do you think about that? I know it's limited as kindergarten, I think through second grade. Many of the suburban schools are open, if not most. Many of the private schools are open. Do you think that, yes, Ross, civics, yes. Do you think that we should be opening on Monday? Now, what do you think, Sean?
My perspective is sports-wise. If you're gonna, they're allowing the sports. They're allowing football, basketball, and whatnot. If you don't open a school, but you allow sports, I don't understand how. You don't have to go to school,
but you get to play sports.
You get to play sports. I don't think that's a good formula.
Yeah, I have tended to. Obviously, I'm not on the school board, so I tend to leave those matters. I got enough under my belt on the city council. I weigh in then as a parent who still has 2 children in Buffalo Public Schools, and at the end of the day, my concern with schools being closed so long is there's going to be a learning gap.
Oh, absolutely.
That is going to be so big. So I say take care of the concern of the union. That's where I'm saying as a parent, take care, because we do. What I don't want to see is what we've seen in other areas, schools open, schools closed. Talking about upsetting the process. But I am so concerned about the gap that is, we already have a gap. Now imagine, a kid, and I'm not going to call out any particular school, but going to a private school in which they're getting that instruction. They're getting it all day. And now these same kids are going to have to compete to get into college and all that kind of stuff, a trade school, a job. And so to me, I think it is wise to say, let's take our youngest, kindergarten through 2. Let's take the seniors who really need the counseling. They need their guidance counselors to be able to get ready to go back to school. Is that my phone?
Yep.
Uh-oh. I ain't even give out the number yet.
It's on the screen. That's why.
It's on the screen. Oh, okay. So I just hung up on them. Nope. There's nobody there. So they must have called and hung up.
Along with that sports, because I know my understanding is a senior or a junior can opt out of going.
Anybody can,
but you can still play sports.
Well, hold on.
541-0866. Nope. Oh, this is not the right number?
No.
Why are you
it's the one on the screen.
Come on. I can't. 895-8222. Hold on. Only one of us can say it. 895-8222, extension 223. Extension 223. All right.
And while you're answering the call, I'll go to Sean's point. I know at the school that, I coach at, they have put out the requirement you can't participate in extracurricular activities if you're remote. So I don't know if BPS is doing the same thing, but that was part of our school's requirement. Like, you can't come to practice, you can't show up at workouts if you're still learning remote.
You agree with that?
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. But the information that I was given is you don't if you
no. This is at a particular private school he's talking about.
Yeah, I know
not
that
Buffalo
one.
Public School.
I know what
right.
school that is, but Buffalo Public School, from my understanding, is you can opt out and still participate in sports.
Stephanie
doing school.
Stephanie Molson says, "I'm praying that the schools stay closed until next fall. However, my son, I just pressed speaker, right?
No, hit the line and then hit speaker.
Oh, that's why I've been hanging up on people. Caller, you're on there.
Okay. I don't have children in the public schools, but I used to work in one. But the schools had almost a year, or whoever's in charge, to figure out what they should do. It'll be a year in March. Why didn't they go into schools earlier or say that they didn't want to go back? They waited a day and a weekend before they decide if they're going to close or not, or if they're not going to open. They've been talking about opening February 1st for almost a couple of months now.
Mm-hmm. So
it's not fair to the children. I'm sure the parents had already spoken to the kids, gotten a little lunchbox, or whatever they needed to do as far as their working situation. And these teachers knew that, and so did Rumor. They should have went to the schools that were qualified to open and did something about them.
All right. Thank you, caller. 895-8222, extension 223. Extension 223. Anita Dixon Sawyer on Facebook says, I think there should be an informative meeting so parents will know what the new format will look like. Vanita says, if it is said the schools aren't ready, the conversation should have taken place months ago. Sheila Taylor, it's time to open these schools. These children need structure. Socializing is important. Again, I think this is Carolyn Lane says it's almost a year. They should have spoken up earlier. So this is what we're starting to hear. 895-8222, extension 223, and we'll get you right on the air. I like I said, I've said this before. I got one who wants to go back. He's not in the list to go back. Mom is a little more concerned. I'm not as concerned. I think he's a responsible kid. And he's in 8th grade. Every 8th grader wants that last year before they go to high school, and then they're at the bottom of the heap again.
Yep.
They want their year.
Exactly.
And I want to give him that experience. My other one, okay, I got to pay attention, right, Sean? All right, caller, you're on the air. Maybe you're not. Oh, Lord. Caller, you're on the air. Caller, you're
I
on the
don't
air.
believe the schools is not ready. Not only the schools not ready, the buses is not ready. They're saying that they are, but they're not.
All right. You say they're not ready, right?
I don't believe they're not ready at all.
All right. That's caller says they're not ready. Caller, what do you say? You're on the air.
Hey, Pastor Pridgen, how you doing today, brother?
Good. How you doing? Sam Radford is on the air. We love when you call.
Yes, sir, brother. I just want to say, and I think the real underlying issue here is that it's criminal that the only parents in all of West New York who do not have the option on whether to send their children to school or just to let them stay home. Because I agree. Any parent who feels unsafe and you don't want your children to go to school, you should have the right to not send them to school.
Yep.
If you want to send your children to school, you should have the right to send your children to school. And the only parents in West New York who don't have that option are Buffalo Public School parents.
Well, I know you've been working on this very hard, and one of the reasons that I told Dr. Cash that I would be a part of the delegation to receive those first children is because I do think the parents should have the choice. And if those parents are sending, because I'm going to be honest, if I had a kindergartner, I probably would want them to be in school because those years are so important.
Absolutely.
And so I would want them to be in school. I'm going to be honest.
Pastor, Bishop, you hit the nail on the head because between pre-K and kindergarten is where you learn how to read.
Yes.
Because in 3rd grade, you start to read to learn.
Yes.
And the further you get behind on learning how to read, it just becomes almost impossible to catch up. But you know what's even more frustrating, Bishop, is that when I had Phil Rumor on my show last night, and he gave the reasons why the teachers are not coming back to school, right? And he said essentially the reason why only Buffalo Public School kids are not coming back when everybody else has gone back is because the buildings are not clean and because they don't have enough PPE equipment in the building. I said, so you have no issue with the safety as it relates to COVID. So it is not the infection rate, because before it was the infection rate. So it's not the infection rate. So I said, so this is strictly a management issue. This is strictly, you believe that the superintendent and the principals of the schools have not done the work to clean the buildings and come up with a plan to ensure that you have enough supplies in the building to keep it properly sanitized. He said that's the sole reason where he said in our contract, we have a health and safety provision to where if our health or safety is an issue, we can grieve it and therefore, go through the whole process of once you grieve it. I said, so you're telling me if adults got together and just solved the problem, our kids can go to school. We had a loggerhead of adults who now, instead of focusing on what we need to do to get our kids to school, they're focusing on all the things that are preventing our kids to go to school and not going to school. So this ain't about kids, and that's what the frustration part is. Everybody else's community has been able to prioritize their children and work through problems and ensure their children got back into school. In our community, we get explanations about why people can't work through problems, and we should just start school in September.
Hey, Sam, let me ask you this. I know that Pastor Donaldson had those centers open, and then they closed. Are those centers still open?
So I'm glad you asked that question, Pastor Bishop Pridgen.
I don't care. I'm D. I'm good.
Okay, but Bishop, it's important that you ask that question because I think something else is going on here, and the answer to that question is going to reveal it. So we were told last week that the contracts for the virtual learning centers end on January 29th. But then we heard from another source that they had actually some additional money had been allocated for it to go up till March 1st. I'm saying, like, why if schools is open on February 29th, why is the Buffalo Public Schools in Erie County putting up money to keep the virtual learning centers open? That don't make sense. And so it turns out, I heard that the actual virtual learning centers are going to stay open another month. So something is fishy in this process. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, why would you be putting up money to keep virtual learning centers open if you intend to open schools on February 1st?
Well, let us know what's going on.
To answer your question directly, yes, the virtual learning centers have been extended another month. So parents who have children, it is only for people who already were part of it. So if you weren't already a student at the virtual learning center, you can't come and sign up new. But if you were already going there, you can continue for another month.
Well, I think that if many of those students will go back, some of them will go back to school, and those slots should be open. I was actually bringing it up because at the end of the day, I know of parents who did go to, because they could not handle the children's work. And so they participated in those virtual. So keep us updated on that. Can you, Sam?
Well, I think the point you make, if you could just say that so people can hear that, it should be, if some of those kids are going to school now, you should be able to replace other kids in those slots. But
Absolutely.
That's not the current policy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, because the one thing, and I want to say to Pastor, how important, because I know of people who their children, they just cannot handle the children's workload.
Right.
And they were able to go to those virtual learning centers. But if those virtual learning centers start to empty out, because I think that they are important, especially whether the model has to be changed or in some ways that we continue to get kids in there. But I would like to see even more funding so that the kids who are behind, that when they go to school and at the end of the day, or put it somewhere, I'm telling you, I am petrified of what the results of having this long of a period are for our most vulnerable, our children. This is, as Sam just said, this is when they learn to read. This is the numbers. This is reinforcing. But I can't say this enough. Parents, you got to be, somebody said on here, parents should have been more involved. I'm going to tell you this, there's not a whole lot of ways. I'm going to be honest, it's a little tough because a lot of decisions get made and they get told. But let me say this, because I was on the school board. I'll come back to the call. I'm sorry. I hear it and then I'm extension 223. Call the church. Extension 223-895-8222. My concern is if we are not doubling up on our children's education in any way that we can, the same way we were very upset about police reform, or very direct.
Yep.
There, to me, and I could just be talking, we have another crisis. Mm-hmm. And the crisis is the education of our children and ensuring that they are going, because we could do all this education reform and all this police reform, but at the end of the day, I keep hanging up on people, Mark. I pressed the call first and then the speaker. Yes. I did, and I hung up on him again.
Well, you know what? Because I think if you hit it and it's still hung up, it's automatically going to speaker.
All right. I'm sorry, caller. Call me right back. I promise you. All right, so I just hit the speaker?
No, just hit the button.
Call. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Peace, brother. How you doing?
Peace, my brother. How are you?
I'm up and down. But in terms of the school conversation that you're having, what are we doing to perfect distance learning? We've been in distance learning for almost a year now. What are we doing to make sure that it is a functional option? And for those who are having difficulty, what are we doing to help bridge that difficulty? I don't think the schools should be open. We should be focusing on education and not opening buildings. And by now, they should have the educational process doing a lot better than it is right now.
Wow. And I mean, maybe we need to have some school board folks on and have that conversation, or Dr. Cash himself, I think is important. So we'll work on that, because I don't think this issue is over yet. Thanks, Kamal.
And my brother, one more thing. If
Sure.
you can give me a call off there, I've got some things I need to talk to you about.
Absolutely. Can you call the office and just make sure I got the right number?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. All right, 895-8222, extension 223.
And I think, to your point, the other scary thing about falling behind is they're now also talking about canceling Regents exams for 3 to 8. So you have no way to track if these kids are still learning in the next set of vital years. So.
Yeah, this is, I mean, and I'm going to say this, and we're all learning as we go. I mean, let's be honest. Yep. Nobody knew that this would be this long, this hard. But those who are on the front lines, again, how I just started saying, you got to work with, but you got to know what you want. And if you don't, we can get mad at Dr. Cash, we can get mad at Phil Rumor, we can get mad, but what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure? And that's why I always say this. When Sam came on the scene, I was so happy because regardless of whether you agree with Sam or not, at the end of the day, he's utilizing his voice and his platforms to have those conversations. And I'm not, unless it's somebody being destructive to our community, I'm not taking anybody down because I don't agree with you. And you, no, we're never all going to agree. Look on my Facebook feed right now. Yeah. There were people saying open. There are people saying no. The calls. There were people who said yes. There are people who said no. But at the end of the day, I think who has the most voice are the parents.
Yep.
You got a kid in school. You a student in school. You have a voice. Use it. You can stand outside and say we want this and we want that. You got to use that same energy to then either be a part of organized bodies or organize your own body, but you got to know what you want.
And whether it's the DPCC, and sorry, Sam, I don't remember what the acronym means, or even the traditional PTO, it's all about engagement and involvement.
Absolutely. Sam says in Rochester, virtual learning centers are staying open. I think they should stay open. I think that some children are or the school districts got to provide something. But at the end of the day, I think these centers are the ones who have been on the ground, and I think they should stay open when school opens, and that there should be, just what Sam said, a model of how do we work together so that virtual center can make sure that child, because what we got to remember, folks, every child out here does not have a parent or a structure that is able to help them.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. You know,
it's like what you said earlier about working together. It goes corporate too. If Rochester is doing it and it's developed well, Why won't Buffalo connect
Take
with
that model.
Rochester and say, hey, how are you guys doing this?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can we improve on this? How can you help us with ours?
Absolutely.
And that's literally what
Absolutely.
Sam just posted. He said, in Rochester, the virtual learning centers are staying open and being integrated
Yes.
into the traditional school model.
Exactly. Speaking of, in my last 10 minutes, speaking of the pandemic, I want to talk a little bit about the rollout of these vaccines. And the reason I bring it up is because I represent people on two different task force. I'm on the Western New York task force for the rollout. I'm on the state's task force for the rollout. And so I have been very vocal and clear. We have followed the science of where to test people. We have followed, and when I say we, I'm talking about the state. The state has followed the science on we're going to close down churches, we're going to close down bars, we're going to close down gyms. It was all about the numbers. That same science must be followed when you talk about, and listen, I'm not getting into a discussion of whether you should vaccine or not. I'm talking about for those who want it. So hear me. This is not a discussion of should you vaccinate. Those who want it, we must follow the science to make sure that it is in the areas where people are most vulnerable. And because they started by saying, and people push back on that, people of color, and then some people of color, Africans, and said, we don't want it, you're going to poison us. I'm not talking about whether you should vaccinate or not. But here's my point. If the people who are, first of all, already have health disparities because there are very few doctors in their areas, they utilize the emergency room rather than go to the doctor because they can't get a physician to see them. They don't. Those folks and those areas where we have a high concentration, we know 14215, I believe, has some of the highest COVID cases and has some of the highest poverty. To me, you've got to pay attention to that area for those who want to be vaccinated. True Bethel has been asked to be a part of a vaccination center in Niagara Falls. And what I said to my son who runs the Niagara Falls True Bethel location, do not, hear me, do not simply tell True Bethel, I want you, because I don't want that. We provide the building. At the end of the day, the vaccination needs to go in the arms of those 65 or older who live in that community of color, who live in that community of power. We should only just be providing a building. Are y'all listening to me? Because we have to follow the science. I've said this over and over. You got to vaccinate your frontline workers. You have to. They're the ones going in to the hospitals. They're the ones who got to come in, the ambulance drivers. And that happens, and that is happening. You've got to, take care of our most vulnerable in the nursing home. And that happened, and that's happening. Now, as we roll out and we talk about, because these committees are called basically of equity and all that. So we're not saying that it has to be equal, because equal is not the word here, because it's not equal of the number of people who are dying. It's not equal of the number of communities that don't have enough healthcare providers around them. Let's be honest. We only have a few people who have said, I'm not in this for the millions of dollars. I'm in this for the millions of people who need help. So you've got Jericho Road. Don't let me miss one. You've got Dr. Vasquez on the west side. You've got G-Bond and his practice on the west side. You've got, who am I missing?
Community Health Center.
Community Health Center. I hope I'm not missing anybody.
Rafa Medical Center.
Rafa. So that's for the entire community of people who have not had the services. The entire community. So now when you do the rollout, Dr. Vasquez and others and have been very vocal of saying, we want a portion of this rollout to be in those community centers. I 100% support. I also support the pop-ups. I really do, because I believe that you got to get into those communities. I want to see a pop-up over at Martha Mitchell Center, for instance, where you have a lot of people over in Kenfield, Langfield, who are over 65 and in the area that needs it. And this, to me, is how you roll it out. I can tell you that's how it's going to roll out if it occurs and we get the vaccinations at the True Bethel Center in Niagara Falls. It's going to roll out for those people. I don't want to see somebody come in, and I'm clear about this, from Clarence Center and go to Niagara Falls because they can. Then why are we doing the pop-ups? It's got to be from the people in those areas that the government is saying, hey, in these areas, they are most vulnerable. Listen to this, y'all, to death. I'm not just talking about getting a fever and laying in the bed for a week. I'm talking about the difference of burying your loved ones because they got a shot in the arm, if that's what they choose. So this is important. It's important that these vaccinations, if we are on these teams of equity, it's equity, not equal. It's equity, not equal. I'll teach you on that later. But if people say, well, it should be equal, I disagree. Because that means you'll send 500 to the city and 500 to the suburbs that has other that does not have healthcare disparities. So our funeral homes will be full. And what won't be full will be our schools. Did you hear me? So we'll have empty schools, but we will have full funeral homes. And so I just want you to know I'm on the wall for this. I'm on the wall for people who have been left out of systems to say if they desire that they should be the first, their communities should be considered. So I do want to say to those from agencies who are trying their best. Again, we're all just learning as we go along, but if we're going to follow the science for the testing, we got to or for the closures, then we got to follow the science for the vaccine and how those get out. Sheila Taylor on Facebook says, make people show proof. I know here what I've said to my son for the Niagara Falls location, if we get it, those people who live right around it need to be, who are 65 years old or older, or whatever the requirement is, that I want to see us being a provider of the building, the healthcare professionals and all that, take care of all of the vaccinating and all that. Let's provide a space and an information so that people in the affected neighborhoods who want to get vaccinated get vaccinated. That's where I'm at on that. So just so you know where my heart is, I think if we all work together, that we can do that. And I can't say enough about our community health facilities, because folks, they are not the ones. Most of their books are public. They are not the ones, and I have no problem with people making money in their profession. But thank God for these community health centers who are not making $1 billion and who most of the time have to struggle to get through, but they have been there, so I don't think they should be ignored. But I also believe that working together with the community health centers, working together with locations that are convenient, especially for people who don't have transportation, is really, to me, the model based on the science or what somebody said on the call today. There has to be a hot sheet. You know, where are the hot spots? Mm-hmm. To me, if you're going to bring down the virus for those who want to get it, you gotta minister at the hot spots, and I use that. You know, my hat went over the minister. You've got to service, the hot spots, so that those areas see less deaths. I'm just going. I hate to be so candid, but for me, who buries people who have died of COVID that maybe could have been prevented if they decided to take the vaccine. At the end of the day, that's where my heart is. So Go ahead, Mark. I know we get down to 2 minutes.
And I was just, I lost my train of thought.
Go ahead.
But
I'm glad that happens to you too, youngin.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good. So the next time I do it, and you give me 3 things. Was it this? Was it that? Because that's really what has to happen in my house. I lose my train of thought. I'll be like, you in the middle of a conversation, be like, what? Shucks. So I have to say it before I forget it. Like if somebody cut me off, I'd be like, hold on. Let me say this. Oh, by the way.
That's what it was. If the governor can lift restrictions by the science and data, then, like you said, we should be able to vaccinate in those same areas that we're still seeing orange, yellow, or red. Yeah,
because that to me is the reason for having a diversity committee and all that. And we're not all going to agree, but I believe in working through the process.
Absolutely.
And, because I don't get my way, I'm not going to get away from it and leave it. Nah, we got to work together. So I do want to say big ups to Mark Blue, who is heading the Western New York Task Force, Reverend Nichols, who has been very active out there, and so many others, Dr. Ansari, Glick, all kinds of people. I know I'm going to miss somebody, and I'm going to be mad at myself, Vasquez and others. Who heads Rafa?
I don't remember his name.
Okay, but just in respect, I want to lift those folks up, and let's get, for those who want it, let's get vaccines in these folks' arms for those who want it, but especially for those who want it in underserved communities.
And it's still supposed to be going to pharmacies too.
I read that. Which is interesting because if you think about it, the reason we definitely need our community health care centers and the reason we definitely need our pop-up centers like was just had at a St. John or something like that is because how many pharmacies do we have in the inner city?
Not many.
Now you can go to a delicatessen, but it ain't no whole lot of Walgreens and Rite Aids. Ooh. The last Rite Aid or whatever it was over here is now a bank. So at the end of the day, that's part of the problem.
Thanks, Sam. It's Rafa's Dr. Francis Aluza.
All right. So big up to Dr. Francis. Thank you for what you are doing over at Rafa, and to every one of you who is participating in it, because we can all complain. And I told you, complaining for me, I ain't going to say I'm never going to complain, because complaining is a part of the process. But what I'm saying is when we have people who are doing, we have to lift them up and lift up their capacity to do what they're doing. For final thought, and then I'm going to go, she says, Jasmine Mack says, I work with special needs population, which means hands-on, changing, feeding, toiling, and how are we going to get
children to keep masks on their face?
That's a way above my level. I'm not sure, Jasmine. Maybe somebody else can answer that for Jasmine. Listen, I've got to go. I want to thank. I had 2 minutes on the end, so I got 2 minutes. So radio station, who coming on? Shotty, don't cut me off, Shotty Swag. Don't cut. Did I say it right?
I think so.
Yeah, don't cut me off, Shotty Swag. I got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. But I think that again, I want to end before I give the sponsors by saying how important that I think the change has to happen within our community of more lifting, more working together, and how much more. And Kamal says this all the time, working together works. Ross and I have these conversations all the time about the armies and how when we are together and building together, how much more we can get done. Nehemiah was not able and did not take the credit for rebuilding the wall. Nehemiah had help, and Nehemiah had help from government. Nehemiah had help from people, and Nehemiah had a few thugs on his team. One holding the word, the other got a sword. At the end of the day, they were going to make it happen because they knew that there was going to be opposition. They knew that no matter how right they did, no matter how they went and got basically if it was 2021, they went and got the permits. They went to the planning board. They went to the zoning board of appeals. They got all their contractors ready. And when they went to work, there were those who say, oh, this'll never last. This'll never work. But they got it done. So if I can encourage us, if you're going to do something in this area, expect, and this is all over, no matter where you at, expect there to be criticism. Expect there to be those who try to tear it down. But make sure you are strong enough to stay on the wall and make it happen. Hobson's, the doctor of dry cleaning, 874 East Delavan. Listen. You want to talk about industries that have been hard hit? They've been hard hit in this pandemic. Why? Because a lot of people didn't wear clothes. I mean, didn't wear clothes, didn't wear suits, and didn't wear dresses, and didn't have to get stuff cleaned, shirts and ties. Please support those who have supported us. How have they supported? The list is so long, I would have to stay here all day. Take a dress over there. Take a shirt. Take a pair of sneakers. Support. Take a hat. Go over there and then go get it. Don't just take it. Take it and go get it. Pay for it. All right? Hobson's, Dr. Dry Cleaning. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. 3 locations to serve you. 347 Peckham, 2528 Bailey, 1275 Sycamore. In your hour of need. Ask the Parson family, Kemp family, the Eldridge family, the Barnett family, the Giles family, the Ivy family, and the Hill family. They'll tell you, in your hour of need, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, 845-5545. You're not going to remember that, but I'll tell you what. Pick up the phone, call the operator, or get online and look for Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. I got to get ready to go. Thank you, station. I throw it back to you. Until next week, power to the people. Hey, everybody. Can they hear me? I'm still on Facebook. Thanks, Sam. We're off air now, so this is just us. When I told my elder complaining, don't change anything, when I told he said, I've been around longer than you, and I've learned that you have to complain a little bit or nothing. And that's why I said it, Sam, that, I ain't going to say I'm never going to complain because, if you don't complain at times, nothing changes. But I also want to be a part of, at least if I complain, let me tell you how I think this should happen. Also, Candace Durham says, if she's out of work, do the COVID relief website. All right.
Oh, yeah, there was.
What was it? What was going on?
They're helping a single mom who says she needed help with lights and rent.
Come on, Facebook. This is what I mean about power to the people. And there's still rental assistance. Folks, do not miss this. Don't just not pay your rent. If you are out of work right now based on COVID, there is rental assistance still available and mortgage assistance. Mm-hmm. But seeing these feeds trying to help this woman, this is what I'm talking about when we talk about power to the people. I can sit here and complain about everybody in leadership and what they've done wrong and how the governor hadn't done this or the county. I don't have time for that. At the end of the day, there are people like this woman right here who needs help. And whether these numbers we're giving her and the websites work or not, at least we're giving it. Right. That is what I believe God has called us to do, how we help other people. So I appreciate you all. And this is the mentality that we have to have as a people of how do I get information? How do I give information? If we're going to use this thing called Facebook, we got to use this for more than tearing down and spreading gossip and many times just spreading out and out lies and using this for entertainment instead of advancement. I want to be surrounded by people, and I want to contribute to this world by how do I advance somebody else other than myself, because advancing others other than yourself actually advances us all. So thank you all. I have to now go back to the office and make some things happen, but I want you to know how much I appreciate you all coming on this platform, of you all adding to the conversation, and we don't have to all agree. We just have to agree to disagree in a way that is constructive so that you, Sam says join our We the Parent movement at www.caowesternnewyyork.org. So like where people say, well, parents need to get involved. Some parents don't know how to get involved. You just learn. Go there. And even when you join something and get involved, like the caowesternnewyyork.org, or their parent movement, it doesn't mean you're going to agree 100%.
Right.
But it does give you another level of power and a place to be heard. I'm one voice on that New York State call. Now, let me tell you this. If I never knew that Western New York don't hold the juice, you learn it when you get on these state calls. That is New York City that holds the juice. Everybody knows each other. They've already built their coalitions. They already got their numbers down. So my little voice is a lot more muted than when Johnny Ray Youngblood, who was on the call, one of my favorite preachers, pastors, when Johnny Ray Youngblood says something, it's like, oh, Dr. Youngblood says something, right? And so, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to have my voice be heard. I just wrote to all of the power players, to the lieutenant governor, about my feelings about the rollout and where I think we need to improve. If they don't do that, I'm not going to jump out of the process.
Right.
I'm going to stay in there and keep just trying to make sure that these shots get into the arms of the right people. Because sometimes, church people been trained to get out if you're mad, leave if you didn't. I ain't with that.
I was getting ready to say, that's how all these reformations and organizations have started. You won't let me do this.
I'm leaving. All right. For those of you on, thank you. Appreciate you. Power to the people.